Good morning, everybody, and welcome to today's continuing presentation series on Cal-OAR, the CalWorks Oversight and Accountability Review. Today's topic is the CalWorks Home Visiting Program Case Flag Special Indicators. So my name is Michael Billingsley, and I am a research data analyst at the California Department of Social Services. And joining us today.
Good morning, everyone. This is Juliana Vignelas. I'm the Cal-OAR specialist here at CDSS.
And I'm Alana. I'm one of the analysts in the HVP unit.
And also with us, we have Joel Acevedo from the Consortia System.
Cal-FOG, Joel Acevedo, lead analyst.
Awesome. And we will have some other Consortia folks on the line. So let's prepare for today's presentation and review our topics and look at a little roadmap of what we're going to go through. First, we're going to provide background of the home visiting program and Cal-OAR generally. Then we'll move on to the HVP Case Flag Special Indicators. We'll look briefly at how we will use the HVP data and a little bit about reporting. And then finally, the main portion of today's presentation will be to look at and walk through the SAW screens that will operationalize the collection of the HVP Case Flag Special Indicators. And as we go along, we will answer any questions. Just recall today's presentation is focused on the HVP Case Flag Special Indicators, not HVP program generally. So if you have any questions specific to the Case Flag Special Indicators, those are appropriate for today's presentation. If you have more general questions about the home visiting program, feel free to reach out to your home visiting program representatives. Thank you. So, as we just saw, we will begin today's presentation with a brief overview of the CalWorks Home Visiting Program and the Cal-OAR background. And to walk us through the HVP program, we want to reintroduce our good friend, Alana Lee. Alana?
Thank you, Michael. So CalWorks Home Visiting Program, what is it? The California Work Opportunity and Responsibility to Kids Home Visiting Program, formerly known as the CalWorks Home Visiting Initiative, is a voluntary program supervised by the California Department of Social Services and administered by participating California counties beginning in January 2019. Why? The HVP will provide an opportunity to demonstrate the impact of home visiting services with the CalWorks population. The goals of the program include supporting positive health development and well-being, expanding future educational, economic, and financial capabilities and opportunities, and improving likelihood for success in the welfare to work and ultimately exiting poverty. In order to be eligible for the HVP, the individual must be a member of a CalWorks assistance unit who is pregnant or a parent or caretaker relative of a child less than 24 months of age at the time of enrollment, or a pregnant individual who has applied for CalWorks aid within 60 calendar days prior to reaching the second trimester of pregnancy and would be eligible for CalWorks aid other than not having reached the second trimester of pregnancy, or an individual who is pregnant and apparently eligible for CalWorks aid. A county may serve additional individuals with prior approval from the CDSS. So how? Assembly Bill 1811, Statutes of 2018, appropriates funding for the implementation of the HVP within the CalWorks program. So now I'll pass it on to Juliana.
Thank you, Alana. So for those of you that are not familiar with Cal-OAR, Cal-OAR is a CalWorks Outcomes and Accountability Review, a new local data-driven program management system that facilitates continuous improvement of county CalWorks programs. Through the Cal-OAR effort, counties, in partnership with CDSS, will critically assess their CalWorks program goals, successes, and areas for improvement. This continuous quality improvement process will take place over the course of 3-year cycles. One of the core components of Cal-OAR is the new performance measures. These measures were developed by a stakeholder working group and will be utilized by counties in a critical assessment and reflection exercise known as the County Self-Assessment. The County Self-Assessment will be followed by development of a system improvement plan to design and implement strategies for program improvement. Cal-OAR encourages intentionality in County CalWORKs program design, service delivery models, and an activity structure that provides opportunities for adults to build core capabilities critical to manage adversity, succeed in navigating a long-term career trajectory, and balance the challenges of life, family, and work. Through collaboration and partnership, counties in the state will execute a joint vision for CalWORKs outcomes of interest that propel County CalWORKs programs beyond the limitations of the federal participation rate. All right, so there are 2 new case flag special indicators in SAWS that will be utilized for HVP data collection. We'll talk more about how the data will be utilized within HVP and Cal-OAR later in the presentation. The 2 new data points are HVP Offered and HVP Received Participated. Both of these case flag special indicators are ready for use in SAWS. And I'll turn it back to Alana to give you more details on each of these data points.
Thank you, Juliana. So we have HVP Offered. An offer occurs when an individual has a conversation with an HVP county welfare staff and makes a choice to accept or decline a referral to participate in the CalWORKs HVP. This offer can be either verbal or written. This does not equate to informing. For data entry, the worker should enter the begin date reflecting when the offer was made or the first date of the month that the offer was made, and they should enter the end date. The end date is either the date the offer is made or the last day of the month. HVP Received Participant. HVP Received Participant is when an individual has received at least 1 home visit. Once this action occurs, the individual becomes a participant. For data entry, the worker should enter the begin date, which is the date of the initial home visit, and enter the end date, which is based on the specific parameters of the model. So then we have case flag special indicator usage. Counties should flag individuals that were offered HVP and or participated in HVP starting with the date the case flags were implemented in SAWS. So for Cal-SAWS, the starting date is July 25th, and for Cal-WIN, the starting date is July 8th. Okay, now we have a diagram. This diagram shows the process in which counties will flag, offer, and receive indicators for HVP individuals. The first circle represents the county process of informing individuals of the CalWORKs HVP. Examples of informing are using mailing packets, phone calls, flyers, etc. When individuals express an interest and are eligible for HVP services, the county welfare staff should be prompted to identify them in the SAWS system. This brings us to our first case flag, special indicator. At this point, the county welfare staff will need to identify the individual as offered in the SAWS data system. This offering process can include face-to-face meetings, an intake appointment, a phone call, etc. Individuals who have been offered the HVP service may choose to decline services or to participate in CalWORKs HVP. Those individuals who are interested and eligible will be referred to HVP services. This brings us to the second case flag special indicator. When the individual receives a home visit, the county welfare staff will need to identify the individual as received in the SAWS data system. So at this time, I'd like to reiterate that the HVP eligible population is not dependent on welfare to work status. Any CalWORKs eligible individual with a child less than 24 months or pregnant that was offered can participate in HVP, regardless of welfare to work status. So Michael, I believe you are next.
So I think we'll pause for just a moment and address one of the questions that have come in. So the question is, for the offered flag, is that offered by the county staff or services offered by the provider?
So the offer flag is by the county staff, not by the provider.
Perfect, thank you. And then one other question, do you have written guidelines to match slide 12? And slide 12 is that flow chart that walks you through the various kind of the process to get somebody to the offered or participant point. So do we have anything in writing currently that kind of explains that?
Currently, we don't have anything in writing, but we will be releasing a frequently asked questions document soon. And on that frequently asked questions document, we will include some guidance regarding the flags.
Perfect, thank you. And then one other note, within the next couple of weeks, we'll be posting the PowerPoint slides online. And the PowerPoint slides will have all of the talking points that we're utilizing for today's presentation, so it will be in writing in that format as well. And then we have are there written guidelines that defines both offered and received along with the begin and end dates. And so no, there's not, this goes back to what Dee was just saying, there's not written guidance currently available aside from in the Cal-OAR reporting instructions. We have something around how we're defining participant. We don't have offered there, but it sounds like that will be included in the one of the upcoming HVP Q&As.
Correct.
Okay. And then one more clarification, receive equals first home visit. And that's correct, yes.
Yes.
Okay, so now we'll go ahead and we'll move on, and Michael will take us through the next piece of the presentation. So with that, Michael.
Well, thanks, Juliana and Alana. And thanks, everybody, for your very interesting questions this morning. So, HVP data use. So as we just saw, Cal-OAR will operationalize collection of 2 new data points specifically related to HVP. HVP offered and HVP received/participant. Just also, demographic and outcome data will be collected on adults and children in families offered HVP. And because we know that important differences will likely exist between groups, data will be collected specifically for those that accepted and received, those accepted and dropped along the way, and those that declined. So, the main uses of the data that will be collected about HVP are for programmatic administration. The HVP data will provide high-level aggregate data about the HVP program to the counties in the state, and it will inform those topics that we just talked about, like how many people were offered and received, or how many people were offered and declined, or how many people declined off the bat. So programmatic data information will be utilized from this, and much of this data will also satisfy the requirements of AB 1811, which require that CDSS collect and counties and home visiting agencies provide data related to several outcomes of interest, including demographics of participants, rates of children receiving health checkups, service referral and service access by type, stability of food, housing, finances, parental satisfaction, parenting skills, and a list of other reasons. And this data will also be used to respond to ad hoc requests from the legislature about the HVP program, and the data will also inform the statutorily required HVP evaluation. So AB 1811 required CDSS to work with at least one independent research-based institution to identify existing and establish additional outcome measures for the CalWORKS home visiting program. These measures will inform an evaluation report that will be provided to the legislature no later than January 10th, 2022. And the Family Health Outcomes Project at the University of California in San Francisco, in partnership with the Resource Development Associates, were awarded the evaluation, and evaluation planning and preparation are currently underway. The evaluation is required to include those program outcomes for the parents and children served in the program, a detail of different HVP models utilized, and other measures specific to CalWORKS objectives. Now let me throw it back to Juliana, and she'll talk a little bit about the specific Cal-OAR measures that will be informed using this HVP data.
Great, thank you, Michael. So as Michael just said, this data will also be utilized in the Cal-OAR performance measures. The Cal-OAR performance measurement system provides a holistic view of the county CalWORKS program. There are 8 categories of measures included in Cal-OAR, which were specified in statute. The categories are participant engagement, participation, service delivery, educational attainment, employment, program exits, program reentries, and family and child well-being. One of the performance measures included in Cal-OAR is home visiting transitions to welfare to work engagement. At a high level, this measure will assess what percentage of home visiting participants transition to welfare to work participation. We'll be utilizing the HVP participant case flag special indicator as one of the data sources for this measure. We'll also be considering participation in a home visiting program administered through the California Department of Public Health, and we'll be obtaining that data directly from CDPH. As a reminder, the Cal-OAR performance measures will be calculated and reported in a staggered manner, organized into 3 groupings: existing reporting, phase 1, and phase 2. The phase 2 measures require some sort of automation, and thus they won't be reported until 2020. The home visiting transitions to welfare to work engagement rate is a phase 2 Cal-OAR measure. So we won't dig into it any further today, but we will address this measure during our phase 2 measure training next year. I'd also suggest referencing ACL 1940 for additional details. Okay, so now we'll shift gears and talk about how this information will be reported to CDSS and by whom. Reporting of the HVP offered and participant received flags is included in the Cal-OAR data reporting structure. For Cal-OAR, SAS will be sending CDSS data files with certain data elements needed to calculate the Cal-OAR performance measures. This data will be reported on an individual client-level basis by county. Cal-OAR consists of 6 data files with different data variables. The HVP-specific elements will be included in the Cal-OAR 19B data file and will be reported to CDSS on a monthly basis. The way that the data flow will work is that first county workers utilize the case flags or special indicators in SAS, and on a monthly basis, SAS will send the data to CDSS. The data files will include the HVP variables along with demographic data elements and other Cal-OAR data variables. All right, so now we'll transition to the last piece of today's training, and we'll take a look at SAS screenshots of the relevant case flags and special indicators. Michael will take you through the Cal-SAS screens, and then I'll walk you through the Cal-WIN screens.
Thanks, Juliana. In the LRS C4 systems, the HVP offered and received case flags are found in the Eligibility tab when the case summary is selected from the left-hand option menu. The flag graphic, highlighted by the black arrow at the top of the screen, informs that this case has been assigned a flag. Just to let you know, the HVP case flag assignment process is not, it's the same process used for all other case flags in LRS C4. So it's the same process, it's just a new option. So the flag indicated by the red box simply indicates that this case has been assigned a flag or flags. To find out what specific flag or flags have been assigned to this case, you would select the case flags option at the bottom of the screen, highlighted by the black arrow labeled, wait for it, case flags. Selecting the case flag section option on the previous page will bring you to this screen, where the type of flags for individuals known to the system are shown. Here we see that this case has flags indicating that HVP was offered and received, as well as a case flag for high-risk convicted fraud and domestic violence. So we have lots of black arrows and red boxes on this image. Let's walk through them. At the top right, we see the case flag icon is represented here, just like on the previous screen. Then below that, underneath the blue case flags bar, we see that HVP has been offered to the individuals in this case. That's indicated by the red box, and the black arrow says HVP offered. Also, to the right of that, you see the dates in the begin date column. Those are the dates that HVP was offered. And we will be asking that an end date also be entered next to that, to the right of the begin date for the HVP offered. And then below that, HVP received. again, indicated by the red box and the black arrow. And as you follow that column or that row to the right, you see that the begin date is August 8th, 2019. That's the date that the HVP was received. And we'll also be required to enter an HVP end date in the empty red box with the black arrow. So in this case, you see that each member of the case has been assigned a flag, and that's how this option will be operationalized in the C4 LRS system. I have Mr. Joel Acevedo sitting right next to me. Joel, what did I get wrong?
Nothing.
Oh, man. That's a first. Thanks, Juliana. Now Juliana will walk us through the Cal-WIN screen.
Great. Thanks, Michael and Joel. Okay, so now we're going to take a look at the Cal-WIN screens for the relevant indicators. Here you can see the list of special indicators selected on the Collect Case Special Indicators page. The HVP Offer flag is indicated by the black arrow. You're also able to see the effective begin and end dates that the worker enters. Here we can see that HVP was offered to our test case in August 2019. Okay, so again on the Collect Case Special Indicators page, we're able to see the other HVP indicator, HVP participant. The black row indicates that the HVP participant indicator has been selected, again with effective begin and end dates entered. Our test case appears to have had their first home visit on August 1st, 2019, and completed participation in the program on October 31st, 2019. So we've sprinkled mention of the begin and end dates for the case flag special indicators throughout the presentation, but we've consolidated all of that here for easy reference. For the offered flag, the begin date is the date that the county worker makes the offer to the individual or the first day of the month that the offer was made. The end date is the date that the offer was made or the last day of the month in which the offer was made. For the Receive participant flag, we need both the begin and the end dates again. The begin date is the date of the initial home visit. The end date is based on the parameters of the specific home visiting model. And additional information on that will be provided at a later date. Okay, so what's next? For Cal-OAR, the home visiting measure won't be calculated until phase 2, as I mentioned earlier, and that won't take place until 2020. Additional trainings on the specific measure will be provided next year alongside the other phase 2 measures. However, transmission of the HVP indicators discussed today will begin alongside the other phase 1 data elements in fall of this year. We do need counties to begin utilizing these case flags and special indicators right away to ensure that we're capturing all of the HVP data that's needed for the HVP program evaluation. Additionally, counties need to retroactively apply the case flags to anyone offered or participating in HVP as of the date that the flags were available in FAWS. And as a reminder, that's July 8th for Cal-WIN and July 25th for Cal-FAWS. Okay, so for additional information, please access the resources that you see listed on your screen. You've got the Cal-OAR website and inbox, as well as the HVP website and inbox. There's lots of good information and resources available at those websites. For Cal-OAR, more related questions, you can join us every second and fourth Wednesday of the month from 11 a.m. to noon for our Cal-OAR forum. And additional details and login information is located on the Cal-OAR website. I'd also refer you for kind of Cal-OAR purposes to ACL 1940. Okay, so now we have some additional time for question and answers. So we'll go ahead and respond to questions in the order in which they were received, and for whatever we may not get to today, we will be providing responses after the fact. All of the questions and answers that are submitted and answered today and answered after the fact will be documented in a Q&A. Okay. Oh my goodness. Okay, so the first question, how do you identify a participant who has dropped or stopped participation? And so I'm not sure if that's how do you track them. I think we're going to ask that the person that provided that question to maybe provide additional clarification. Okay, just to confirm, if the county provides mailers based on county listings and the client enrolls in services, does this mean we would not enter the indicators? So if it's just a mailer that's provided, is that considered an offer?
That's just informing.
So that's just informing, so that's not considered an offer.
Correct.
So they would not have the offer flag selected in the system for that. And then the client enrolls in services. So if the client enrolls in services, then there had to have been an offer made between the informing and the enrollment in services. So they would be marked as offered in the system. And then when they get to the point of having their first home visit, they would then be considered a participant, and the flag would be entered for them for participant.
Correct.
Great, okay. The next question, when will we have a final form so that we know what data elements are in fact required? So this sounds like a broader question than just what we're talking about today.
So they're discussing the HVP 19, which is the data collection form for the HVP. We're hoping that it'll be finalized and released within the next 2 to 3 weeks.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay. Some of the data being requested to be tracked is not available currently in SAWS. Our county is expected to track this information manually. So I don't know, again, if this is a question of what we presented on today or a bigger question.
So thank you for that question. As I mentioned, we will be releasing the HVP 19 shortly. Right after release, we plan to hold a webinar going over the data collection form. During that time, we will discuss what are the responsibilities of the counties.
Okay, thank you. Okay, if there is a 2-parent family, are we flagging only the head of household? No. So in LRS and C4, you flag each individual separately, and so you would need to flag every individual that is in that case.
Tracking purposes, we would recommend that you select all the members.
Mm-hmm.
We know who has been linked to that HVP.
Yeah. And for Cal-WIN, I believe the case flag is applied case-wide, not by the individual.
That's correct.
Thank you, Jinko. Great. Okay. Is the data being provided by public health being compared to SAWS data? And if so, will counties be able to review for validation? So the data that's going to be provided by public health will supplement SAWS data. So it's not going to be compared. It will be in addition to, so that if a CalWorks, if someone in CalWorks was participating not in the CalWorks HVP, but in some sort of home visiting program that's administered through that department, we would make sure to capture their participation as well. And unfortunately, at this time, we're not able to provide the individual level data that we receive from CDPH, just because of data sharing rules and regulations. We will be providing the higher level sort of aggregate count of that data. Okay. Is the county expected to add a new offered indicator each time the discussion takes place between the client and the county? So if the county offers HVP to someone multiple times, do we want the county to enter the flag, a new flag, each time? Apologies, we were having a sidebar conversation. We'll get back to you on that one just to make sure that we're very clear on the expectation there. So that'll be provided in writing after the fact. Okay. To clarify, we are to enter end date both for offered and the received flags. Yes. So we need a begin date and an end date for both flags. And I know that on our presentation on Friday, if anybody joined us, we had initially said that no end date was needed for the offered flag, but we've gotten additional clarification after that it is in fact needed. And so we are asking counties to enter both of those dates. Why did the LRSC for offered indicator not have an end date in Cal-WIN? It did have an end date for offered. The screenshots were just an example. And so initially, as I just mentioned, we were thinking an end date wasn't needed, but now for consistency, we're asking all the counties to enter an end date as defined in the presentation. Okay. In a two-parent household, if only one parent is available and attends the first HVI home visit, do both parents need to be flagged HVI received? Does the child get flagged or tracked somehow? So I think that goes to the response we provided earlier about the two-parent household. And you would want to apply the flags to every member within the case. In terms of the second parent, if they're not available during the first home visit, give us one moment to pause on that. So the answer to that second question is yes. Even if the second parent is not actually present for a home visit, that first home visit, we would mark them as received because the whole case and the whole family is benefiting from that service that's being provided. Okay. The program runs 3 months. Do we keep the flag open for the duration as long as the participant is involved with HVP? So for the offered, the case flag should be have an end date that same month as the offer or the begin date. For participant received, the end date will be consistent with how the specific home visiting model defines the end and the conclusion of the home visiting service. So it should be kept open until that point. Oh, okay, let's see here. Do we have access to the slides? So great question. We will be posting the slides on the Cal-OAR website within the coming days, weeks. We are, unfortunately, right now experiencing a delay in posting just due to some IT issues. And so we're trying to get it posted. We were hopeful to have it posted before today's presentation, but that didn't pan out. So look for the PDF version of today's PowerPoint within the coming week or so. And then following that, we will also be releasing the PowerPoint version of today's presentation with the talking points. Okay, and just so the group knows, we're also recording this presentation, and we'll be attaching captioning to the presentation, and that will also be posted online. So for all of those materials that I'm mentioning, you can find those on the Cal-OAR website, and the link was on one of the previous slides. And we'll bring that back up so that way you can take note of it. And you can also go to the CDSS website and just search for Cal-OAR. Okay, in order to enter this information, we need the information discussed during the webinar. By when do these entries need to be made? So I think the question is, when do counties need to start taking action on what we presented today? And that's as soon as possible, as soon as you're able to enter the information. If there's a delay between, if there's a further delay in entering the information, we're still asking counties to go back to that date of implementation for the flags within SAWS. So it would just necessitate a little bit more of a retroactive entry. Will CalWIN be providing the data to CDSS or county staff? So the consortia will be providing the data to CDSS, the individual level data. I don't know if Jinko or Joel, you want to add anything to that?
Just that it's as part of the Cal-OAR data files, the HVI data elements will be included in those.
Yeah. Yep. So it will be included when SAWS begins transmission of the Cal-OAR data files in a couple months here. Okay. Can you please clarify the difference between the first day of the month and the offer was made and the date the offer was made? So if the offer was made on August 19th, you could enter August 19th for the begin date, or you could enter August 1st for the begin date. Essentially, what we're looking for here is to know what month in which the offer was made. So for our purposes, either strategy works. So if there's something that's easier for your county to kind of implement, then as long as it's in that month, we are okay with that. Okay, asking about, there's a question about if this updated PowerPoint with the clarification about the end date for offered is on the CDSS website. And so no, it's not. Back to what I was saying before, it will be as soon as we're able to get it posted. And you know, we can actually go ahead and we can email out the slides after today's presentation to anyone that had the invitation for the training. If you didn't have the invitation for today's training and it was like forwarded to you and you don't receive the slides today and you want them, we're happy to provide them via email. If you send an email to the Cal-OAR inbox, you see it on your screen here, or the HVP inbox, we can go ahead and email that out to you so there's not a delay while we're waiting for the posting on the website. Okay, requesting clarification. Counties may enter a future end date on the special indicator HVP received participant based on the parameters of the home visiting model. No. So the end date should not be entered until that the situation meets the parameters specified in the model. In one of the example slides, it did have a future end date. That's simply for kind of example purposes. We don't expect an end date to be entered until the end has actually occurred, so to speak. To add to that?
Correct. So either the home visiting model has reached its time limitation, or the client has graduated from the home visiting model, or client voluntarily terminated their services. That's their actual end date. That should be reflected in the indicator flags.
Okay. If the offer was declined, what date is updated in the end date? So this would be for the offered flag. The end date may be the date that the offer and the decline occurred. It may also be the last day of the month in which that happened. What is the status of the monthly report template? And that was already addressed. Sounds like it's in the stage of being finalized and should be released in the coming weeks.
Correct.
Okay. If the offer was made by a provider and not the county employee, what date should be entered into the offered field? And we're going to get back to you on this one. We just want to make sure we have all our ducks in a row, and this, the response to this will be provided in writing in a Q&A after the fact. If an HVP recipient leaves CalWorks and returns to reapply, our HVP service indicators need to be entered again. So just technically speaking, if a case leaves and then reapplies, the indicator was never closed out, it wouldn't automatically come up for that case. Is that correct?
In the Cal-FOS system, an end date is not required, so it could still be listed as open, but we're asking the counties to put an end date, so the offered would need to be re-entered if another offer was given to the customers, the clients. Then it would be picked up as a new offer when we ran the next report in that month.
Yeah. Jinko, anything to add to that? Okay. If somebody stops participating in the HVP program after their first home visit, how do you show in SAWS that they've stopped? So you would enter the relevant date into the end date. I know different models define sort of how that stoppage looks like. If there's further attempts to communicate with the client, how many times does that occur before kind of terminating their participation in the program? And so it should be reflective of those guidelines within that specific home visiting model.
Correct.
But when it is determined, then the end date goes into the received row under the end date column.
That's right.
We won't be tracking all that additional information at the time, but for the purposes of the flag, you would enter the end date as being the last date of contact or whichever date was terminating the services to the client.
Perfect, thank you. It was stated that the HVP offer may be made in person or verbally by a county worker. Do we need to have a referral opt-in form on file showing the client's choice to decline? Okay, so this is kind of a broader programmatic question. So our HVP partners will take this back, and this will be provided in Q&A format at a later time. Okay, and so with that, we've reached our time limit for today's presentation, and we'll need to conclude our time together. Not to worry, there are quite a few questions that we didn't have an opportunity to get to, but we certainly will. And as I said, the answers will be provided in writing on the Cal-OAR and HVP website. So thank you so much for spending your morning with us. We really appreciate it. We hope that this was informative for folks, and this gives you what is kind of needed to take action and start getting this important data entered into SAWS. If you wouldn't mind hanging around for one extra minute, and clicking on the link that is in your chat box. It'd be great if you could fill out our short, I believe it's 7-question training assessment to let us know how we did today, how we can do better. We do actually look at the results and take that into consideration for future presentations. All right, everyone, thank you so much. Have a good rest of your day.